So what is being expressed in this enigmatic, illusory journey of life? There's a persistent query that accompanies the character, perhaps until the final breath. Why do individuals chase after something that was never truly lost? Why do characters grasp at shadows, trying to unravel mysteries that defy comprehension? Why seek what already is? In this cosmic play, without another, there's no explicit message for the seeker to seize as their own. There's no speaker, there's no teacher or guru or guide that can claim a message of truth. No treasures of enlightenment to claim, nor fleeting moments of bliss, ecstasy, or peace to possess. The very notion of striving for self-improvement or enlightenment or awakening is laid bare, revealing its illusory nature. Individuals are not beckoned to delve deep within to uncover some elusive true nature or fleeting sense of awareness or dropping away of a contracted me. There are no spiritual treats to satisfy its cravings, no safe havens of belonging or enchantments to shield us from reality. No guides, no paths to follow, no doctrines to mold a character into something that they're not. No magical allure, no charismatic leaders, no authority figures, no transference of illusion, only the stark veracity that one's character or egoic self or a me is nothing but a story, bound to fade into oblivion. Yet everything is allowed and nothing is right or wrong, so everything can appear as it is. Yet amidst this vastness lies a gift like a treasure, the recognition, impersonal one, that what is whole and complete, that there's never been any separation ever. Here, this infinite here, without the burdens of expectations or demand, here, in this luminous, wide openness, confusion and resistance melt away, leaving behind a profound sense of completeness, an impersonal contentment. But where does this empty wisdom originate? Is it merely a conversation with the illusory self, a dream conversing with its own illusions? Is it the makeup of something that cannot be comprehended? It's the echo of nothingness speaking to itself, empty to empty, so to speak. The illusion of the identity pretending to be substantial. Yet within these words, there's a deeper resonance, a boundlessness that transcends mere concepts. However, the dreamer, the character, the player, often clings to familiar illusions, weaving webs of interpretation to shield themselves from what is without an opposite. In these empty spaces where possibility hangs heavy in the air, the fundamental communication that there's nothing to get, that there's nothing opposite, that there's no separation, simply not true, often falls on deaf ears. Beneath layers of teachings or no teachings or traditions or communications or message, whatever it's called, beneath the veneer of spirituality or non-duality lies the essence of what is, a resonance that strikes at the heart of the individual. Yet many recoil from its implications, seeking solace in diluted teachings or non-teachings that skirt around the edges of reality. For the essence of what can never be thought whispers of dissolution, of the annihilation of the separate self, a suggestion too daunting for the individual, the me, the ego, the self, the mind to confront. And so the play continues. The hidden message that can never be said or never be thought is obscured by the clamor of compromise and self-preservation. So it denies what already is. Here in the infinite here, without a two, it tries to find meaning. It tries to find comfort. It tries to find an understanding of what can never be understood. So here in this vast openness, where words simply come and go, like fleeting moments, like ephemeral appearances, there is this solidity, this unicity that cannot be touched. It cannot be grasped. It cannot be comprehended. There lies the recognition that nothing has ever been separate. There is nothing that has ever been known. It's pristine, untouchable, unknowable, ineffable. So the question is, although there's no one choosing, does a character wait until the final breath to see what is without a thought, to see this clarity without words? Or does it get caught up in the idea of time, that there's a next that will follow? A recognition that will surely come, a me that will drop. What if it's here already? What if in this here, in this very, very here without a two, everything is already answered because there's no questions. It can't be questioned that this is already what is. If you have any questions, please go ahead. Thank you. And the chat is open. Maria. Hi, Maria. It's good to see you.
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
I love
How are
how I
you?
was like, I'm gonna wait till someone else puts their hand up. I'm always the first one to talk if I'm in a meeting. Here I am. I'm back. Oh, I love your jacket.
Oh, thank you. It's a shirt.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Oh, it's
Yeah.
dope. Um, so I feel like I'm kind of embarrassed,
Oh,
but
please don't.
well,
It's okay.
I know. Well, it's okay. So I've launched my website because I do kind of like inquiry based coaching.
And that's
And
cool. What's wrong? What's wrong with that?
well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of why I've been like, oh God, Emerson's gonna be mad at me, which is crazy.
No.
No, I know, but that's like, yes,
What's your
that's my,
website so
it's
people
just
can
my
look?
name, my name, Maria Schoen.
mariaschoenfield.com.
Yeah. Um,
Check it out.
there's a pig that, yeah. Anyway, but I guess
No
like
shameless promotion. That's okay.
I'll put them on the trot.
Yeah,
Um, no, I feel like um I do feel like there's been this kind of last few months where I've been have a new exercise routine, have a new diet, and my nervous system seems to be shifting into like a much more regulated state,
nice.
which is great, but it's a lot of work.
Of
Like,
course.
and it's really slow.
Yeah,
Um and yesterday something a lot of my old stuff got triggered, and so I went, I didn't sleep all night, and all the stuff, and then at like 6 a.m. I was just like broke and like crying in my bed, and then I put on one of your video, like one of your introductions videos,
yeah.
and um I don't know, it really like soothes and comforts, and then it's kind of like there's this very simple. It's not like, because a lot of the trauma work is like very, like, as you were saying in the introduction, you have to go very deep,
Yeah.
and like it's a lot of like an inquiry as well. Like it's very just hard work kind of.
Yeah.
And then I was listening to your stuff and it was just kind of that like familiar, like, oh, I can just, it's not even like letting go of anything. It's just here-ness. And then
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but I don't understand how the two coexist.
It doesn't. But let me explain.
Yeah.
So, in essence, non duality cannot really help an individual, right? But seemingly, compassion happens. And that's what inquiry and therapy and all that kind of stuff happens, right? So, it is what it is. Does that make any sense? Because non-duality in its essence is it is what it is already what is, right? So it's simply not two, simply whatever seems to appear is it. But yet
Yeah.
in this, but yet in this narrative of life that we so-called life, there's the journey that appears, as helping others or trying to unknot something that is convoluted or something. And that can happen with inquiry or whatever seems to appear, right? So there's an openness to it. So that's also allowed. It's nothing right or wrong, right? It's just what seems to happen, right? But for characters that are trying to get the essence or just the non-duality, it's all a suggestion because to even call it anything, you know what I'm saying, is to just suggest that it has any definition. There's no such thing as non-duality, really, right? Because it's already whatever seems to appear is non-duality already. It
Mm.
already simply is what is without any kind of on any opposite, right? So it's not even um it's not a denial of anything. It's not also an acceptance of anything. It's just seen as what is. In my last talk, I think it was my last talk, right? I talked about that, right? It's kind of like a because there is this seeming understanding of what it should be. So to land in any positions, for example,
Yeah.
um, kind of like there's also a yet, there's also an and with non-duality, right? For example, kind of like what I said, right? It really cannot help a separate individual because it does not see a separate individual, but in the story, helping others happen meeting where everyone is at, someone is at, is also what's happening. Compassion also appears. It does
Mm.
not mean that we're just simply like mouthpieces talking. There is no one here. It's already what is, you know what I'm saying? Because that's just becomes just another landing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just becomes another ideology. It just becomes another concept, right?
Yeah, and I've in the last few months I haven't really wanted to come to meetings. I haven't really felt the pull, but also I felt a bit angry because I just feel like I'm like still missing something and like this thing. And then right before this meeting just now, I was like, oh well, that's it
That's
too.
it too. Yeah.
Yeah, like the
Missing
anger.
something is a part of whole and complete, right? It's a part of everything. So it's
Yeah.
not a um what I like about this is just there is just no more judgments, right? It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
doesn't
not in,
position one as right or wrong. It's just what appears, right? But for some characters that are trying to comprehend, although there's nothing to comprehend non-duality, it does not cater to that person.
right.
Yet in the narrative of it all, right? We go to doctors, we see a dentist, you know what I'm saying? We get some acupuncture, we get some, um counseling, trauma work, all that kind of stuff, right? It's also it. So it's not about denying it and everything, right? So um when you think that it has to be inclusive or exclusive or it has to be kind of like just one position, then it becomes an authoritarian gatekeeper of something that already is. So even helping others is also it, or not helping others is also it.
Yeah.
Again, it has nothing to do with what you think because this is not about the thoughts. It's not about comprehension. It's not about understanding or any of that, right? So um, it's just what is.
Yeah, and then there's like the relief that seems to, it's like kind of an unconditional like embrace somehow. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's just interesting that like um it has to get so painful before
of course. Yeah,
before that's
kind of like what I said in the beginning, right? Like we always go into a quest. The
yeah.
characters seem to go into a quest, this illusory journey or a destination, so to speak, right? But at the end of this illusory quest, nothing really even matters. Nothing really even happened. So what if the character, you know, did a work as an inquiry person or whatever, right? So what if the character, it doesn't really matter because you're not really even choosing to do any of this. It just happens. It's almost like you're always off the hook. There's no one on the hook for anything. But it
Yeah.
doesn't mean bypassing because it can be. Yeah.
I think I used it along for a long as an excuse not to try.
Yeah. Of course, you know what? The character always tries to hide behind a an agenda not to try, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh, I can just give up and watch TV for the rest of my life,
Yes.
which I can,
Which you
but
can, you know.
yeah, but it doesn't feel particularly good. But then I kind
Yeah.
of swung the other way where I was like, I need to make something, and then the quest started again. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like,
So
yeah,
so even with the inquiry, like, you know, if you look at all the speakers out there, right? So if it already is, then there's really no point in talking about it. But why do people talk about it? Why do people put YouTube videos, right? Why do people, you know what I'm saying? Why do have retreats and everything, right?
yeah, and I
It applied, the rule applies to everything, right? It's just because there is a claim that there's simply no one, you know what I'm saying? Does not mean that the rules apply differently, right? So yeah, speaking still happens. This Zoom meeting, you know what I'm saying, was put on and everything, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's also a compassion that happens here. If somebody is suffering, I'll tell them, hey, ring me up, kind of thing, right? Let's talk, let's clear up some stuff. You know what I'm saying? And that's just a character as well.
yeah.
Again, in essence, you know what I'm saying? The non-duality has nothing to do with what you think because it already is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like so confusing that the mind's like, oh, fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is what it is. So
Yeah,
what? So
yeah,
what?
yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you. Thank you so much, Maria. It's good to see you.
yeah, you too.
Upon having this realization, what's the point of life? What's the meaning of the goal or the goal? What's our purpose? How do I avoid falling into nihilism um, when there is an answer to it? When there is a definite, you know, when you say that there's no point to it and everything, that just becomes another position. Life appears as it is, right? So if this character goes on a mission to whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's just what is. Whatever seems to appear is already what is. Nihilism can seemingly appear, you know what I'm saying? Because kind of like what I said, when it's seen that this is not even happening, that there's really nothing that matters, that there's really no goal or purpose, then there's seemingly kind of like almost like a what's the point? But when the character claims that there's no purpose, that there's no goal, that there's no whatever, then it becomes another identity, doesn't it? So this is the wide, vast openness of whatever seems to appear. And whatever seems to appear is also disappearing simultaneously, meaning that it doesn't matter even if it matters. It's just what is. And it's not about trying to pinpoint it, right? It's easy to get caught up the idea that there's no one here, which is just another idea, by the way. It's easy to get caught up that there's no purpose. Although, you know what, in its essence, because there are no individuals, so there's really no purpose or no goal, but goals may appear, purposes may appear, love may appear, right? Anything can appear, nothing is denied, it's just what is. Again, there seems to be kind of like a one-sidedness that appears, right? So if you listen a lot of this communication, um, more radical, then it's easy to believe now, right? So I do one-on-ones with characters that get caught up, of that nihilism idea. So they stay in their houses, for a long, long time and just watch TV and that kind of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with it. And again, there's no one choosing it, right? Um, and yet there are seemingly others as well that sees the vibrancy of life, that goes out and explore, you know what I'm saying? Because there's no more fetters. There's no more boundaries, right? So there's just this freedom. It's like being a kid again. Um, so what's being expressed here is that when it becomes a belief system, when it becomes something that you can hold on to, like, like holding on to that there's no purpose, holding on to that there's no meaning, who's holding on to it again? Just a really simple, right? It seems contradictory that this is talking about aliveness and liberation, and yet the idea that gets planted is that there's no purpose, there's no goal, which is just another idea. So it doesn't matter goal or no goal, purpose or no purpose, both are illusory. It's just what is. Hi, Cecilia. Hello.
Hi, Emerson. How
Hello.
are you?
I'm great.
You were talking about goals and objectives.
Yeah.
Uh, Cecilia went to the ER
Oh no.
yesterday.
You okay?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
no, but it's happening.
Yeah.
Because she wanted to find out what's happening because she doesn't like what's happening. Okay,
Yeah.
you know, she said, okay, this is happening. Let's go to ER, blah, no
Yeah.
goals, no objectives,
Yeah.
whatever happens. But then when I left, I noticed I didn't have an objective, a goal,
Oh,
but I
yes.
had an assumption.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
then, it got me. And then I was like, okay, Cecilia, if you didn't expect this, you didn't expect that, but you expected how, then I said, you know what? This is the play of words
Yeah.
because oh no, there's no objective. No, I don't have a goal. I don't have a
Yeah.
mission. But I had an assumption. I
Assumption. Yeah.
expected someone, something else. And like, if you go to see a doctor, you expect uh, some answer, that's the objective, you know, even if we name it in a different way.
Yes.
I was very, yes, I had a big assumption. I expected what I didn't receive. Well, my goal in reality was to find something,
Yes.
even if Cecilia, oh no, there is no objective. It is what it is. It
Yeah.
will
Yeah. Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. It's you're correct, right? It's easy to get caught up in that, right? It's easy to get caught up again in ideas, right? So it's um and there's nothing wrong with getting caught up to with those ideas, right? But when it's seen that those ideas create this identity of a self, a me, an I,
Mhm.
like I don't have any goals or objectives and that kind of stuff like that. But objectives and goals appear, but without a you, without any separation. Because the moment that the you, the mind, the ego, the whatever appears, it claims it and it creates a fracture, like a temporary kind of like, like a disconnection to what is. Then it goes, internalizes everything and becomes my goal, my purpose, right? And
Yeah,
it assumes the identity as without a goal, without a purpose, or the opposite with a goal or a purpose, right? So again, it's not about landing anywhere. landing or no landing is still a landing, so to speak, right? It's all mind stuff. And there's nothing wrong or right with the mind, except that there's no mind. So whatever appears that seemingly appears as a comprehension or a position or whatever, right? Is the kind of like, you know, that Einstein, reality is an illusion, but a very persistent one. The character is an illusion, but a very persistent one. The individual is an illusion, but a very stubborn one that keeps on claiming and claiming and claiming and claiming, right? Right.
Mhm.
So one day gets convinced that, oh, I don't have any purpose or goal. And then when the purpose or goal comes in, they're like, oh, there must be a me here. No. So it convinces itself. It's like a phantom talking to a phantom, right? Kind of like convincing of itself that it's real.
Mhm.
So it tries to posit reality over and over and over and over again, right? To convince itself that it's real. But the convincing and what's being convinced is both illusory. So it fractures into two to create the illusion that there is another. And it's a very sly. It's like well played, right? It's like, wow. It's
Yes,
fascinating. Yeah.
it's fascinating, and it's very interesting, because
Yeah.
that's what's happening here. Is like, why do I have that stubborn
Yeah.
me, I, whatever? And you know,
But that's the spice of the character, the stubbornness. It's
yeah.
also perfection. It's just what appears, right? It's like, oh my goodness, what a stubborn character. It is what it is, right?
Mhm.
It's the it's the wow of it too. Like, wow, that's a very stubborn character kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cecilia always, she's always smiling, happy, it is what it is. Then went to the ER, and she noticed it. Cecilia smiling, talking, being nice to
Yeah.
everybody, and everybody else, doctors and nurses, well, they were like robots. And then the me said, you better change your attitude. If you are in an emergency, it's because you're
Yeah.
suffering, because you need help. And I'm like, why why do I, how I praise that? It's not their fault that I'm having a fucking miserable day.
Yeah.
Why they have to pay with my attitude?
Yeah.
And I get whatever Cecilia was, blah, blah, blah. And then when I left, yeah, the me said, I told you, bitch, you should change your attitude. You got what you deserve it. It's fascinating to watch,
It's a
to
wonderful
make this
play. Yeah.
story,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
also the thing that happening is that I can see how I'm making this story in different things, right now, making a story, talking to you about ER,
Yeah.
but it never happened. I'm
Yeah.
making a story, it's amazing
It
to
is
see.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. It's just a slow clap all the time, right? It's kind of like, wow.
Oh, well. Thank you,
Oh,
Emerson.
thank you, Cecilia. We'll talk
Probably.
later. I read the book too.
Oh, me too,
Yeah.
man. That was a relief, because there was sometimes that I said I made that up. Well, yeah, I wrote the story,
Yeah.
but when I read the book, I was like, oh my God, the wheelchairs sometimes is a blessing in the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
It's a blessing because they don't trap me, they don't hook me, because of the wheelchair. But the reality is a blessing.
Yeah.
It's a blessing.
It is. It is. Yeah. In the
Mm-hmm.
story, right? In the story, it
Yes.
reminds me of those couple, of people that I met from Vermont, right? They were so desperate for, and basically said, "What will it take, Emerson? What will it take?" And I'm like, "Do you want to go for some food?" I just wanted to show the ordinariness because the moment that the book that we're talking about is basically about I'm not going to mention name. It's about a cult leader basically, right? That basically
Mm-hmm.
took money from characters that are really just vulnerable, right? That was willing to give up everything to realize what is already basically. So it goes into many different kind of, the character moves into a community where they live and everything and that kind of stuff, and ended up giving away, being coerced actually out of the inheritance money. And it's a story that repeats. I hear it all the time. I'm
Yeah.
doing a couple of one-on-ones right now with characters that are kind of like what I basically said in the beginning, right? No teachers, no guides, hold the truth. But when you think that someone holds the truth, then it's easy to be really gullible and give away everything that you have. Um, but it is what it is too. But we'll talk about it later. Yeah.
Yeah. But I wanted to mention something
Sure.
that I noticed. Well, um, if you see a lot of cults
Yeah.
uses Jesus and the Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
then that's amazing because the humans we
Or they can also use
trusted.
awareness and consciousness.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That if we speak with words, consciences and awareness is the same as Jesus and the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit.
Yeah.
But we want to trust someone
So bad.
so bad that he
Yeah.
gives an answer. Then when someone says, "Oh, Jesus talks to me and he tells me you to tell you this,"
Yeah.
we go like, "Yeah, I found an answer."
That's right. Yeah.
We look for trust, we look for and then when it's very hard to notice that Jesus comes to you with a thought, comes to you with a thought, and Jesus, Yeshua, whatever you want to call it, awareness, God, conscious, whatever, is silence. Why? Because we wanna, in the mind and whatever, we wanna listen, put attention what he's saying, what Yeshua is saying in my mind,
Yeah.
in a silence.
It's just nothing but silence. Yeah. It's
Total
beautiful emptiness. Yeah.
emptiness, silence.
Emptiness. Yeah.
Thank you,
Beautiful.
Emerson. Love
Thank you.
you.
Love you too. Thank you. Hello, Woodley. How are you doing?
Hey Emerson, hey, what's up?
What's up?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Um,
Good to see you.
it's good to see you too.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
I
I'm
like
not
your
even sure
jacket.
what I'm gonna say. Oh, here. It's like a stripy thing from Target.
Cool. From Tarjay.
From Target, yeah.
From Tarjay, yeah.
Yeah. One trap, if I can call it that, that
Yeah.
seems to be arising is this feeling that like when I look around as a character, when I look around my life, there are things that I would like to change.
Yeah.
And so then this thought arises persistently. Oh, well, it's just happening however it unfolds
Yes.
automatically. So how can I change it? And there's this anxiety, like, oh God, I can't change it. And I know
Well,
changing it or not changing it is just an idea anyways,
yeah.
but it seems it's very
But
persistent.
if you go to the root of it, who wants that? Who wants change?
uh no, no.
It's just what is. So trying to change or not change is just another form of control, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And there's just
Yeah.
another doership, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's just what it is. There's nothing wrong or right about that. It's just what happens, right? It's just the ordinariness of what seems to occur. Then there is just this narrative of, wanting to change or not change or whatever, right? So it's getting caught up in the movements and then missing out on the stillness of what seems to appear. Although everything changes, nothing ever changes.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Simple. Thank you.
It's yeah.
Merci beaucoup. Comment ça va?
Oh, hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Every time it's like I don't really have anything to say, but I'm
Yeah.
kind of challenging myself right now
Yeah, for
to
sure.
speak,
Yeah.
even if, whatever how it comes out, and
Of
there
course.
might be a lot of judgment,
That's
from my
okay.
part, oh, what are you doing? And blah blah blah, like Cecilia was saying.
Yeah, of course. Of
Okay.
course. Yeah.
So I'm kind of challenging myself, and I thought, what could I talk about with Emerson
Yeah.
and the group? And
Yeah.
so listening to Cecilia, like I seem to work in the 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 health
Yeah.
like the health department,
Yeah.
and I'm like reading let's say, for example, A Course in Miracles and the disappearance of the universe.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I heard there's actually no health and there's no sickness.
Yeah.
And I'm
It's
like, what?
yeah.
And it's funny because it's funny and it's not, because it seems to be serious in my role here,
Yeah.
to be healthy, and you have to do this and that to stay
Yeah.
healthy, and don't do this and don't
Yeah.
do that. And so why am I talking about this? There seems to be like an attachment to health.
Well, you know what? It's funny, right?
Yeah.
So, in
Yeah.
the absolute, right? There
Yeah.
is no, it's just silence basically, right? So,
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter if health or no health.
Yeah.
It's the same thing basically, right? So if
It's okay.
there's choosing to choose health, you know what I'm saying? Although there's no one choosing, and that's what seems to appear. There's nothing wrong or right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I
That's
find,
sometimes that's the danger sometimes of scripture. The moment that we interpret it, it it breaks into duality right away, right? It becomes my interpretation, or worse, a teacher's interpretation of it. So when it becomes interpreted, it becomes how do I call it? Contaminated by ideas, right?
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
when they're kind of like, I love it when Cecilia pointed it out that it's just really just silence, right? So whatever
Mhm.
arises from silence is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
So there's really no answer to
no.
that, right?
Mm.
Um, but if you can also read that there's no food or there's no water, then do you stop eating or drinking water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems here, though, like because there's some kind of a psychological attachment to health,
Yeah.
I could be kind of sabotaging my health in a way. I
Oh,
don't know if
um,
you know what I mean.
that's just another idea, right?
Just another idea. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just
Mm.
another something that passes, right? So,
Yeah.
and everybody goes through that thought basically that I'm ruining my health. Everyone does,
Yeah.
but it passes.
Yeah.
It comes and goes, right?
Mm. Mm.
And seemingly what seems to occur is just this appearance of coming and going.
Yeah.
And then we overlook the silence or the peace that
Yeah.
already is, right? So
Yeah.
meaning that it's being at peace with whatever seems to come, whatever seems to appear, whatever seems to occur. It's just a coming and going, right? So all of these distractions, kind of like what I can't remember who was saying that, but it's the changing. Woodley was saying, right? You're trying to change the change. It's always going to be changing, but there's
Mm.
something that's never changing,
Mm.
and that's what's overlooked.
That's what I overlook.
Yeah. So there's peace in whatever seems to be appearing, right? Wanting to get more help, or or the idea that I'm ruining my health or something. It's just coming
Yeah.
and going. Being at peace is they're just ideas into something that you cannot really comprehend or put into an idea.
So the reason it seems to agitate the personality is maybe because I'm thinking,
That there's something that you can do about it.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
That you can
God.
change it. Yeah.
That is constant here.
Yeah.
Ugh, tiring.
It
Yeah.
is until it doesn't. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Until it doesn't. It's
okay.
just it just comes and goes. Even this
Yeah.
tiring, right? So it's just an appearance.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not
And
about
also, yeah,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
sorry. Yeah.
I was gonna say also like all this thing about it's my health and it's my sickness, it's mine,
Yeah.
right? Mm,
And again, you
I
know what? It's easy to get really kind of like really um stuffy with a lot of thoughts, right? It's almost like congestion of thoughts and everything, right? But it also
mm,
comes and goes.
yeah,
It's seemingly
yeah,
what happens is when there's an engagement with it over and over again, right? Then it becomes this
yeah,
knot. Um,
yeah.
but when it's seen that everything is empty, even
Mm,
if it's fullness, even if in heaviness and everything, it's just
mm,
what it is.
mm.
It's almost like
There's
the moment that we engage in it, we go into a rabbit hole of thoughts.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's non-stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Let's just put this out there, and this is kind of like this is hard to comprehend, but it doesn't
yeah,
have to.
yeah.
Your thoughts have nothing to do with you.
My thoughts have nothing to do with me.
Yeah. Not the you as a thought, but the you as incomprehensible you.
Mm.
The you that you cannot think about.
Like the real me.
There's no real you know what I'm saying? But
Okay.
what is? Let's just call it what is.
What is okay?
What is? What is what you are, but what isn't is what you think you are.
Mm.
Which is also what is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's all what is.
Mm. Okay.
We'll talk soon
Okay.
again, Josie.
Yeah, I'll
Call
go
me, call
into.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk again for
Okay.
sure. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
And
Thanks.
come back. The meeting's not over
Yeah,
yet. So
yeah. No, I'm proud of myself to speak a little
yay!
bit. Yay.
High five.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's a few questions here. Um, Bonjour, Michelle. You touched on it, on it a bit. Do you have any suggestions or for when we fall into using this as a bypass? When you think, when you believe, the concepts basically, it's all conceptual, right? When you believe a statement such as um, there is when it becomes basically when you grab it, when you own it, like there's no one here, um, or there's nothing happening, or it's just what is and everything. When there is a landing, when there is a claiming, then it becomes bypassy, right? Because it's kind of like you get a bill, you're not going to go to a restaurant and somebody gives you a bill and you say, there's no one here. Nothing is happening. Or if your house is burning, you're saying that nothing is happening. There's no one here. Surely you're going to call the fire ambulance, you know what I'm saying, and run out of the house, that kind of thing, right? So, um, in the directness of the appearance, right? So when we're not caught up in ideas of what this should be, there's a response usually that appears. It has nothing to do with you. It's just a response. It's kind of like in a dream, there's no one choosing in the dream, right? So in the appearance of bypassing and everything, when you think you're choosing with an identity that there's no one here or whatever, then it's bypassing, right? Or for example, when we're talking about this A Course in Miracles thing, because I did it for 10 years, right? So when I made a statement like there's no private thoughts, then you have to share. It becomes my belief system now. Then I've used it to my advantage. Then I've used it to benefit me. Then I've used to manipulate the situation. Then I've used it to not take any accountability, right? Meaning that I was involved again in this in the bypassing and everything. But what I'm trying to say is that there's a directness to it. So if there's anger that appears, there's anger that appears. There's honesty that appears, there's honesty that appears, right? It's not going to convolute it and say that there's no one choosing to do this and everything when it becomes an idea. In the narrative, in the story, there's going to be seeming choosing or whatever seems to happen. But thank you, Maria. Go ahead.
Yeah,
It's an interesting conversation. This one is right because it's
well, as you were talking, something that came to me is this, like, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
yeah,
And so my thing that this character does is like uses rules to repress my natural
yes,
expression.
yeah.
And so
And you're an artist.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that the when that bypass comes up, like for a while it's quite like it feels like it's helping because it's like a permission to let go of things, but then it very quickly becomes that set of rules. And so what I just noticed now is just like when that happens, it's just so like it's so obvious because it's just the character doing the same thing it does with everything else.
yeah. If you notice that the character always has an agenda.
Yeah.
It's either an agenda to claim, to claim that I'm right or wrong, or to avoid being wrong. And that's usually when
Yeah.
bypassing happens, right? It uses, for
Right.
example, statements like whatever statements that it can use to seemingly it's almost like nefarious if you look at it, right? Because it rather than taking accountability and everything, it seemingly creates this narrative that I am in control.
But the good thing is about it is that the more you see it happening, the more similar it is to each other, and then you can catch
It
it really
is.
much quicker because it's like
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's just kind of like, what the hell, right? Kind of like what I'm saying. Reality is an illusion, but a very persistent one. It's Einstein, actually. And then it will
yeah
keep on coming and coming and trying to create this narrative, right? But when you started to identify with that narrative, when it becomes you, and there's nothing wrong with identifying with anything, by the way, right? But when the belief system becomes strong, and this is my identity, basically, meaning that when there is a controlling or manipulation of what seems to appear, right? See how far it goes. Basically, it also always ends up in hurt and suffering.
yeah, and exactly, it always ends up in I'm doing something wrong, I'm not getting it,
There you
I'm
go. It always
I'm
comes with the lack, right?
yeah
Yeah.
yeah
It always comes as there's something missing. There's something that I did wrong. I'm unworthy, or, you know, um, I wish there
yeah
was no me, or all this kind of stuff that seems to
yeah.
appear, right?
And so when I catch the bypass, to then not spin into more, oh fuck, I've done it again and I'm using
Yeah.
it to bypass, blah blah blah, because that's just more of the same. So it's kind of just this like, oh
Yeah. It's basically whatever seems to happen, it's out of your hands.
yeah
Whatever seems to happen, it looks like that you're choosing. You know what I'm saying? It's in the relative, there's choices that's being made. But we're looking at the absolute, there's no choices have ever happened.
That's you can't conceptualize that though, right?
No, you
No.
can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't.
Okay.
There's moments of clarity for some people, like, for this character, it's kind of like, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's no one doing anything, right? And that's usually when the character collapses, right? You see it for what it is. But when
Yeah.
the relative keeps on kind of like thinking, like, okay, you know what? There's someone's choosing to do this, someone, whatever, right? But it's all a narrative.
I've tried to think my way into there's no one here so many
You
times.
can't. You
Makes me
can't.
go mad. Yeah.
Because
So I go insane. Yeah. So
yeah, because the illusion is trying to come up with an illusion that there's no one in the illusion,
yeah.
which is also just another illusion. Yes, the illusion can only come up with more illusion. It can't get out of the illusion, right? Because even in the illusion, there's no two, meaning that there's this singular illusion that appears as multiple layers of illusion, but it's just a singularity.
And I think the hallmark of if you want to call it truth, or I don't know, is that it always just feels kind of like relief. And
It is.
it's like, oh yeah, I don't need to.
When you're not in no
Yeah.
when there's no position of right and wrong, it's just what is. It's just innocence, right? There's almost like this openness, right? You're like, okay. I used to have this kind of like almost like this agitation that I'm always right. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about, right? That kind of like, or I'm always wrong. There's something wrong with me, right? So it goes back and forth into the idea of time, the idea of you, the idea, and it just hides behind this idea, and it becomes your identity. So I am right. I am
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But there's no I behind it, right? It's just this appearance of right, appearance of wrong.
Yeah.
So that's
It's
what I'm saying, that there's this empty space that everything seems to arise from, right? That we don't know anything about. And trying to figure that out is just another illusion. It's just another thought.
What are they
I think
looking
I think
for?
this is the first time that I've ever like realized that I was still trying to figure everything out.
Yes.
So it's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, you know what? You don't want to, you don't, kind of like in my intro, right? You don't want to wait, although there's no one choosing, until your last breath to figure out that there's nothing to figure out.
Yeah, and in a really
Go ahead,
nice
go ahead.
way.
Oh.
Not in like a
I'm just going to mute there here for a moment, Kathy. Just a moment. Okay.
not in like a cold abyss kind of way, but just in
Yeah.
like a I can't conceptualize it. Cool.
Yeah.
Done.
It kind of like, you know what, the idea of trying to figure out something is trying to hold on when you're free falling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also like
It's
not
the
moving.
lightness, right? There's this lightness, and then the heaviness is the idea that you're going to land somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're also not gonna not land anywhere conceptually.
You're never going to land anywhere because there's no you to land, right? So the
But
idea,
you're also not gonna land as a concept.
never.
No.
You can land in the idea, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
And which is really kind of like devastating, because it usually, the bottom falls out usually, even if you land right in your idea.
Or you feel like you're completely alone in the universe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Which is
Right.
the idea of separation, right? So for the aloneness to happen, it fractures into you when there's no you.
Right.
When the entirety is you and not you simultaneously.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. Try to grok that.
Good. Thanks.
You're good. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Kathy, I think Kathy wanted. Oh, Kathy's not here. Sorry. I thought there's a question here. The illusion of illusions are thought, right? Yeah. It's just really a thought. Right? So there's this, the illusion is brilliant, right? Because it can appear as this intricate, exquisite, detailed mess. But there's really no mess. It's just really, it just springs from a thought. And the thought maintains reality by coming up with more thoughts. But it's just really swimming in thoughts when it's actually just all empty appearances. It's really nothing. Oh, hey, Laura. Emerson, your words come from silence. It's absolute nectar, mercy. And yours too, Michelle. There's no difference. But thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Hello, Emerson. There is a quote from your newsletter about dancing of self and no me. Can you repeat that? I love that. Is that yours or is it someone? It unfortunately it's just this silly character here that likes to play with words. I can't remember it. I don't have a good memory. I don't have a memory to be honest. I don't know where it is, but let me see if I can find it. Sorry. Oh yeah, here it is. It's in this bold and direct openness lies an always overlooked treasure, a wide-eye recognition that nothing has ever been separate, ever. Here without the burdens of expectation or demand, here in this luminous vastness, confusion and resistance melt away, leaving behind a profound sense of completeness where the unreal and real meet. Here where the ideas of self and know me slow dance while the world of beliefs and everything that is known burns away. Always infinitely here. Perfect, wild, and unknowable. Um, thank you. I like that imagery of just this two imaginary lovers intertwined into a really slow dance where everything, the love, um, um, that seemingly, is the music for this dance while the world burns away. So romantic. There's this idea of opposites. So when the idea is opposite, seems to just melt together, right? It's just a dance. Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that. Thank you, Josie. Thank you. The world burns away, yeah. The world of beliefs, I think is what I said, burns away, right? Because it's the whole structure that seemingly is held on by the imaginary characters is just the world of belief systems. And when that seemingly goes into embers, there's just this beautiful crispness of what is just appearing as what it is. The belief system seems to create this delusion of what this is. And when all the beliefs seemingly fall away, it comes out this fresh newness, that everything is always brand new. Like every single moment is brand new. And and then when there is a belief system or an idea of what this is, it becomes this seemingly boring, repetitious jail cycle thing. Going back in thoughts of this is what, going back and forth into duality. So when the spell of duality seemingly falls apart, which is just a belief because there's really no duality, it's just simply not two. Simply nothing has ever been separate. That instant recognition, if very impersonal one, not a personal recognition, then everything that's built, everything that is structured, like beliefs and meanings and definition, crumbles apart. And then even your idea of the self or no self is just basically burning away because there's no such thing as self or no self. It's just what is. And the what is that I talk about is cannot be defined. It cannot be comprehended. It doesn't really have any designation or any label. Yet we have to, in this conversation, so to speak, there's going to be a stamping or a labeling of something that cannot be labeled. But there's a full-on admission here that what's being talked about is just simply incomprehensible. But in this vastness where everything is in this wide open field, everything is allowed to dance, ideas about what this is, suggestions of what this should be, confusion, recognition, understanding, everything is allowed, right? It's just really a play. And at the end, we all take a bow. And then when we all take a bow, there's no one that bowed. It's just closed curtain. So there's this limited play, seemingly kind of like a limited showing of what is as this appearance of duality. And the characters get busy trying to figure this duality out, trying to comprehend something that's never been separated. And he gets addicted to that very, to the very trying to grok something that is simply ineffable, something that cannot be comprehended. So it goes running around in circles trying to figure out what this is. But it's like an imaginary friend talking to an imaginary friend. In a dream, within a dream. The illusion is trying to figure out the illusion only to come up with more illusions. And at the very end of it, seemingly at the last breath, there is a seeing through that it was just really just a dream. The question is, do characters wait until that final moment to see that this is just a dream? That this is not really even happening? Is similar to going back into a nighttime dream and trying to figure out every single detail of it, even when memory fails you, because it's hard to remember everything. But even the memory is also made up because it's a dream. Inside and outside, everything that happens with it is just a dream, yeah. Can you talk about a little bit about the spiritual narrative that says in order to wake up, you have to open your energy centers and all that? um, Again, getting caught up in any kind of ideas about what you need to do, right? So anything that has any communication, any spiritual teaching that involves a next, including that the next steps will be taken by God in a lot of kind of like whatever seems to appear, denies, overlooks what already is free. So there's no need for any kind of, I used to do many workshops about chakras and everything, but admittedly had no idea what they are. So I did many, many different workshops about that. But after reading 3 books, I still don't understand what it is. And by saying that I don't understand is like I pretended to know something that is just all completely made up, right? So in a dream, you don't make something real because it's still a dream, right? So everything is in the dream is either neither true or not true or false, right? Because it's just a dream. It's all made up. So including the idea of energy centers, waking up in a dream, all that kind of stuff. It's nice, you know what I'm saying? But it tries to go for the next dream. So when you don't see this as a dream, there is no waking up because it keeps on going. It's like going thinking is like a snooze button, always snoozing, you know, saying, one day it will happen to me. One day um uh the Holy Spirit will guide me, that kind of thing, right? When this is it already. When it's so direct, there's no middleman. There's no energy center dealer. And it's okay if there's one. Do you have any suggestions for when we're spinning in the thoughts and there's so much suffering around this stuff? Spinning in thoughts is like, being in a storm. There's nothing that you can do about it. You can take shelter, for example, right? But spinning in a thought and trying to control it is like trying to control the storm. It passes. It passes. The more that you engage in the thoughts, the more that you get soaked in the rain, right? It passes. It's all irrelevant, really. It's just what seems to happen. It's just what it is. So there's no suggestions really, other than it also passes. Because trying to put relevance into it, then it becomes this idea that there is something that you need to get rid of, which is just another thought, right? So engaging in a thought produces more thought, and it maintains the thought over and over again, right? So the moment that you're like, oh, I have to get rid of this thought, another thought comes in on how to get rid of it. Why do I have these thoughts, right? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You expressed this elusive wonderment called non-duality so beautifully, so poetic. The source of love is so close to the reality you outline. No need to talk about what's next. Loved it. Thank you. Thank you so much. But engaging in thought after happens or doesn't, and also doesn't. Yeah. See what happens is the moment that thoughts come and go, right? And the thoughts are almost like, what do you call those post-it notes? The moment that you touch the post-it notes, you get caught in it. It becomes, all of a sudden you're covered in post-it notes. They're sticky little things, but it has nothing to do with you. It tries to label you, right? So seemingly engaging in a thought or not engaging in a thought is still sticky because there are more post-it notes that you get stuck on, right? You're like, I'm engaging in thought, I'm not engaging it. It has nothing to do with you. When you see, not you, but when it's seen that it's just coming and going, coming and going, coming and going, coming and going, right? It's almost like it's like a pitter patter of rain. And then it stops. Then it's spring. And then it's winter again. And sometimes there's a storm. It's just like the weather. It comes and goes. It's like the tides. It comes and goes. There's high tide, there's low tide. Like the waves, there's big waves and then there's ripples. But what's always overlooked is what seeing this is silence, looking at silence that appears as noise according to the illusory self. I don't know if I answered that, but hi, Emerson. I'm so glad that you're feeling better. I love these talks. Oh, thank you. Yeah, likewise. It's funny, right? It's people have to point out like oh, you look like shit, Emerson, when I was talking. Um, somehow I forgot to take my. I went to Montreal and I forgot to take my greens, and I think my immunity somehow, right? But it was good lying around doing nothing, right? It's like I had like um um a garbage bin full of like tissues because I was just so much cold. Yeah. But there's still love doing this. I don't know why. Isn't silence but the other side of noise? I love silence because everything seems to arise from silence. This emergence or arising is damned mysterious. Things just appear. Poof. They aren't here, then they're here. Yes. Everything just usually emanates from silence, and there's also no silence. See, that's the wild thing, right? Everything's emanating seemingly from a source, but that source is also sourceless. So it's just this pure magic and wonderment, right? Like, how is this even happening? And yet we get caught up in the phantom voices that seems to appear, um, and missing out on this beautiful, glimmering, appearing, disappearing, um, wonderland of tastes and textures and feelings and sensations and emotions and music and noises and wow, right? It's just fantastical. It's like Willy Wonka has nothing on this. He just has a chocolate factory. This is the full, you know, you've got the golden ticket. Not you, but you are the golden ticket. You know, saying it's just like it in this wild appearances where you know you walk in the morning and there's dewdrops, and then there's this mist, there's the sun that rises, and the sky is painted with like colors, and then there's like different shades of green, you know, with the grass. Oh, it's just wow. And that's just a second of this moment, of this eternity. That's not even here, right? So there's a getting caught up in oh, I wish I can stop this seeking. And but everything that you're looking for is the sky, the grass, the air that you breathe, the beating of your heart, the smile that forms the confusion, the frustration, right? What a wonderful ride. Yet you're not in the ride. It's just a ride. It's just, yeah, everything just goes poof. And yet nothing is separate. How? How? Um, well, how gets into trouble again because we start to seek the hows and the whys. It's delicious. Cecilia.
I was laughing and I wanted to share something,
Yeah, for sure.
but I was doing nothing, quiet, pretty frozen, like, oh, it feels so good doing nothing. And then he said, well, actually, no, you're doing something because you're talking to me in your thoughts. Then that's activity. It's happening. You're not doing anything
Yeah.
because then I realized, oh, I thought because if I do nothing, stay like frozen, that would be silence.
No.
The head was working, the talking, the mind, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I really don't know how to be doing nothing,
Yeah. And yet you've never done anything.
right? The silence, and then that
Yeah.
makes the noise, and the
Yeah.
silence noise, and
Yeah.
then
The
nothing.
silence and the noise, and somewhere in between where there is no boundaries, right, is an emptiness that is so loud, right? You know what I'm saying? That it seemingly, dissolves any idea of duality. And that's where peace lies, right? That cannot be understood. Because understanding, not understanding, it just goes back and forth, right? But there is this seemingly, permanently, presently, unknowable peace that always is. So it's at peace no matter what appears, right? It can appear as like Cecilia going, "Oh, Cecilia." kind of thing.
Cecilia,
Oh,
stop.
Cecilia. Oh, what? But there's peace that is just silent and almost like a silent prankster. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't do anything. It just welcomes everything. All right, there's the crazy Emerson again, that kind of thing. There's the silly Cecilia. It's just what is, yeah. It's
Thank you.
brilliant. Thank you. I think you said this, Emerson, in the last meeting, and you said it again today, which is really resonating here, that there's no truth holder. Yes. Because that's just because the moment that someone thinks they know the truth, right? It just goes back into illusions. It just goes back into conceptualizing something that cannot be conceptualized, right? Truth is just a word. And if you take away the words and everything, there's just this isness, whatever it is. So it does not delve into trying to figure out what the truth. And frankly, when I thought I knew the truth, it was so tiring because I always had to defend the truth. I always had to gatekeep it because I thought I had it. So it's a thought that you think, and then when it gets challenged, then you defend it. And then you put down everyone that you think is not truthful and everything, right? But it's just another thought. It's just so codependent, right? Because you think you have the power when you have the truth. And then sometimes when you lose the power, then you think you don't have the truth anymore. The truth is held on by a belief system that comes and goes. Sometimes you believe that you have the truth and sometimes you doubt it. So it's really tiring. To be an individual because you think that you either don't have it or you have it. When you have it, you maintain it, you guard it, um, you defend it. When you don't think that you have it, you look for it, you crave it, you do everything for it. You get gullible for it, you give all your money up for it, you give up your relationships for it. But no one can handle it that there's no truth holder because there's no individuals. It's wild, wild, and wild. And the truth is so dangerous when you think that you have to protect it. So many wars have been started because someone thinks that they have the truths on their side. So much suffering happens when they think that they don't have the truth. So much uptightness when someone's guarding the truth. When no one has it. Question here. How does love or the feeling of love fit into this? Like to feel loved by friends, etc. I know that no one can hurt me, but I do smart when someone seemingly hurts me or say something ugly to me. Is it all this talk of love of illusion? Picture this. Everything is already unconditional love, meaning that love or no love is love. It's just an illusion of the opposites, right? But love does not really have an opposite. It's not two. The moment that you think that love or no love, it's a place of lack of, or like someone loves me or I don't love someone. There's a separation because the me, the character, gets involved in claiming love or no love. But love can't be claimed because um, not what you think you are, but what you are. Not as a concept, not as an idea, is actually love. Not as a definition, but as unconditional perfect love. Not an idea of it though, yeah. So whatever seems to appear is it. there's just this appearances that it's love. It's kind of like, seeing two, but there's really no two. So love is always looking at love. And then when you think, then it's not love. It becomes duality. But there's no one choosing to think or not to think, so it's just an illusion. Yeah. So it's not really a feeling or an experience. It is what it is. It is what it is. It is already, basically. Feeling or no feeling, experience or no experience, it's always there. It's what's constant. Some people call it peace, some people call it love, some people call it freedom. And again, the words pale in comparison to what cannot really be fully described. We can go into the relative idea of what love is, right? But that just becomes another idea of what love is. So the love that is not bound by ideas, not bound by comprehension, is what is what always is. There's no truth. The truth that the seeker looks for is info-handed. Info-handed, sorry. The, there's no truth. The truth that the seeker looks for is info-handed out to you by someone else. Yeah. Every truth is subjective, right? Or it's passed on. It's a hand-me-down knowledge. So anything that can be, passed on is just an idea of truth. That truth cannot be put into an idea because truth is just an idea again. It's just a concept. There is a resonance sometimes that seems to appear, right? You know what I'm saying? And you can't put a finger on it. It's just really emptiness to emptiness. After having a big glimpse, the latest that lasted for a few days and still lingers, a sense of loneliness came, almost like existential dread. Is this normal? The experience feels like knowing that no one exists is somehow incredibly lonely. Once I come back to that full or oneness feel, the pain is gone. But when I come back to the matrix, it comes back again. It is a common thing. I talk to so many characters that seemingly have this almost like a grieving, right? Because if there's simply no one here, and then it's almost like there's a beautiful poetry that is just a play of words, right? So the um it's almost like the loneliness becomes wholeness, meaning that if there's no one here, so there's this idea of a grieving basically of ideas of enlightenment, or this seeming kind of like fantasy of forever bliss and everything. So when it's seen that those are just ideas, there seems to be a almost like a loneliness that happens. And then when you see that there's really no one here, it's like, holy crow, it's almost like a grieving of that individual, a grieving of that feeling of wholeness or completeness. But what you're really grieving is something that is illusory. If there's no one here, then there's really no loneliness, isn't it? It's actually wholeness. So loneliness eventually becomes wholeness because there's no one that that was here. But that idea, that concept of individual is what's grieved upon, basically, right? So any ideas or belief systems that you have is almost like a grieving. It's like a loneliness. But yeah, yeah. It's something that happens. And someone said here to that, I've had that too. Said me speaking to you as me speaking to myself. Yeah. So it's almost like, you know what, it's you built this world around you in your head. You built this narrative. It's kind of like that Plato's cave, that you think that all of these paintings on the wall are real. When you get out of the cave, there's no one else. There's no others, really. And yet that could also be a point of liberation, a point of freedom. So aloneness basically is also wholeness, meaning that you've never been separate. Maria.
Yeah, just on that, like, isn't it also though, because that kind of scares me, I think that scares this character to like
Yeah.
anything it can use to, but isn't it the cool thing that does happen though, instead of the loneliness, is that there's still interaction, and then it becomes kind of magical because it's just like stuff happening.
Yeah. Everything just seemingly appears now, right? Because there's no more anchor. So it's almost like it's scary when the anchor is gone and you just
Yeah.
you're just kind of like free flowing. You know what I'm talking about? And then
I think
and then there's a
yeah.
tendency to go back to the shore to anchor itself again, right? Because you're like, oh my God, this is too much freedom, that kind of thing. So it's afraid to see that there is no one. It actually, it doesn't exist. So the me, the character, the individual, the ego, the mind is afraid to see its own reflection, that it doesn't have a reflection.
I
That
just
everything is just happening as it is. Everything is just happening automatically. You see what I'm getting at? It's like it's
yeah,
afraid
yeah.
to find out the apparent truth that it doesn't really exist.
I think I've conceptualized the not existing thing into something so scary that the really
Yeah.
it actually just feels like relief and joy
Yeah,
for me.
it's just a relief. Yeah, because the
Yeah.
moment you conceptualize it, it's almost like hiding behind what is obvious already, right? It's kind of like, it's gonna be scary, so you don't want to admit it that there's really no one here.
Yeah, but then when you kind of sit in, you're like, this is not scary. This is dope.
This is dope. I know it is. It's so wild. Kind of
And
like
it's yeah.
I'm so introverted, right? Like now, saying I go walk, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, have my headphones and I'm singing at the top of my lungs and people are looking.
Nice.
So what?
Well, you're not wearing any pants either.
Well, I did that one time and I got, the police came, and but that was, that's another story. That was
I've done that too.
when I
I've done
did
it too.
acid.
Yeah, no, I think a common thread for like spiritual psychosis is a nudity
It
aspect.
is. It is.
Yeah,
Right?
everyone I met in the psych ward had also gotten naked at some so,
It's funny, right? Because one time, you know what, when there was no more seeking, really, I saw someone kind of like running around. I'm like, okay, there's someone that's having a spiritual psychosis there, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And everyone's like, and I'm like, ah, yeah, I get that. Been there, done that.
Yeah, it's funny because yeah, I don't know.
It,
There's some kind
it's
of freedom. There's some
it's
kind
one
of
of those
freedom.
checklists for extreme seeking, right?
I
I'm saying,
think
have you
so.
done acid, and have you
Yeah,
you
did
get
you get
completely
naked?
naked
Has the
and thought
police
you
come?
were Jesus, basically, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I was talking to my friend actually that did that with me. So we this is in my 20s. We did a whole bunch of acid and he goes, I think I'm Jesus. I'm like, me too. I'm like, we better spread the gospel. I'm like, I go this way, you go that way. So we both walked and we didn't know we didn't know that we were both, well, I guess we knew that we were naked, so we're just like walking. And it was funny, right? In Vancouver, it was the Dragon Boat Festival. Have you seen, it's like they have this big, boat, and there was plenty of people, right? So I was like smiling with my Jesus smile, like, and
Thinking you were,
everybody was like looking, looking like, whoa.
they were like, you thought you looked peaceful, you just look creepy. Like,
Yeah. Luckily, I was like in my early 20s. It didn't really look that creepy yet, right?
oh, okay.
just just a young kid, and of course the police are like, what are you on? And I'm like, I'm Jesus.
Converted a few people. Yeah.
And they were very, very kind, right? They kind of knew. They'd probably seen it around, like Vancouver is a hippie town, so probably that acid, I'm saying, spread around, and there's a whole bunch of Jesuses walking around naked, somewhere.
That's amazing.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. This is a blast as always. I will see you back in Sunday. This time there's a breakout room. Last Sunday I couldn't do it because I had a one-on-one. Thank you so much, everyone. Love you, love you, love you. Mwah.
Love you.
Love you. And bye bye.